Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, I hope that you're having a fantastic day and you are ready for some Computer America. Today on the show, we have a special guest, Quantum eMotion, and if you haven't heard about them, they've been on the show once before. We're looking forward to kind of an update, and don't worry, if you didn't catch that one, we're going to go over all the basics, everything that they do, and how they do it. So everyone, it's going to be a great show, and we're looking forward to it. So before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, the podcast, distribution. We'll have the live video archive, of course, up on YouTube, links to social media, all that good stuff. You can find that there on our website. Everyone, we hope that you're doing well once again, and you're ready for the show. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So joining us today is the CEO of Quantum eMotion. You can check them out at quantumemotion.com. Or head on over to our website and we'll have a link right there ready to go. But joining us is Mr. Francis Bellido. He is the, again, CEO. Francis, welcome back on to Computer America. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing fine. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy, and really happy that you could be here. And I know that it's been quite some time since you've been on, and obviously with COVID and doing interviews by Zoom, I'm sure you're getting very used to this by now. But yeah, so how you been? Just how you been?
I'm fine. I mean, becoming a professional. A Zoom now. I think thanks to Nelson that is coaching me.
There you go. No, that's just what we want to hear. So, okay, I think a good place to start is, the very basics. Let's assume no knowledge. Give us a bit of background on yourself. Have you always been in high technology? And a bit of background on Quantum eMotion. Why and when did you start the company?
Yes, so very rapidly, yes, I'm a scientist originally with a very strong also financial background. Always been involved in my career developing technologies in the life science space and more recently in cybersecurity. And I've been involved now for the past 11 months, with this company, Quantum eMotion. What I found it actually very fascinating, the way they were approaching cybersecurity. And just to say a few words about the company was founded about, I think, 4 years ago, out of the University of Sherbrooke, Sherbrooke being a little small town at the border of Quebec and Canada, and the U.S. In Quebec. And the spin-off was done based on the work that world-renowned quantum physicist, Mr. Bertrand Relais, who specialized in studying quantum noise. And based on the work that he did in discovery, he thought that we could create actually, a device that, can change the way we do cybersecurity. And that's actually the core of the quantum random number generator.
And obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but I mean, this seems like really cutting edge stuff, and we're going to get into kind of use cases and the product itself, because it's an actual physical product. It's not just I guess kind of software and things running on quantum computers. So I think a good place to kind of start would be Quantum eMotion. You gave us a little bit of background, but how is this the future of, I know that this has to do a lot with random number generation. What is the importance of random number generation? How are those used in kind of, society at large? Because as I understand, randomness is actually very important, but hard to do.
Absolutely. So maybe I need to explain a little bit, how communications over the internet are basically assured. In fact, everything that needs to be communicated over the internet, if you want it to be secured, needs to be encrypted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything, is encrypted, and obviously very valuable information needs to be highly encrypted. Or, and the way you encrypt it is actually using a very sophisticated encryption algorithm. And what is important to understand is that the quality of this encryption is going to depend on the quality of the random numbers that are used to seed the encryption. Factors to start encryption, to prevent, for example, random numbers prevent that you could find any pattern into an encryption, okay? Because every single, encryption is completely independent, one from another. The problem is that most of the time today, these random numbers that are crucial in encryption are actually they are produced by other algorithms that specialize in producing random numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So by definition, when an algorithm creates a random number, it's not really a random number, because an algorithm is a sort of a set of formulas, that's going to produce that randomness. At least what they produce is, it's called pseudo-random numbers. In fact, they are complex more than really purely random. So if you really want to create an extremely high quality encryption, you need to rely on pure random numbers. And this is what I think it's very interesting, because you talk about it's very complicated to do randomness, because in fact, in our world, we live in the world of Newton physics, or classical physics. There is nothing is random.
Right.
Everything is deterministic. This is something I learned because I didn't know that about 10 months ago, because, this is for example, the reason why we're able to send somebody on the moon. It's because everything is deterministic. We understand very well the laws of physics, to sending a rocket to the moon. So how do you rely actually, and how do you create that randomness? So that's what quantum physics comes, because it's a completely different world. It's the world of the infinitely small, okay, infinitely small. And there is a famous principle, in quantum physics called the Heisenberg principle, that actually it's used to exploit and generate randomness. And this is the beauty. And this famous, principle that got the Heisenberg the Nobel Prize of Physics in 1923, I believe. So he basically, discovered that a quantum particle is a photon, neutron, or an electron, is actually, a quantum particle has a dual nature. They can behave at the same time as a particle with a mass, and also like a wave.
Yeah,
so
and sorry
like
to
the mass of the wave is purely random.
Yeah, and sorry to jump in there. I just want to say that I've definitely heard that little aspect, and I think a lot of people have. But then, of course, it comes into when you measure it, which I'm sure you're about to say. I don't know why I stepped all over you, but yeah, when you measure it, it changes, and that's important.
Yes, that's the principle of uncertainty, Heisenberg. Yes, you're right. That's another phenomenon, that the observer can actually influence the process in itself, But here, in fact, what we do is we're exploiting, in fact, the technology in a way that very simply we use an electron, source, and we have actually the electron directed against an energy barrier. Okay, that's what it's our intellectual property. What we call an energy barrier is called a tunnel junction. And you will see that most of the time, the electrons are going to bounce back, from that barrier. Once in a while, they'll going to cross the barrier. They will tunnel through, and it's the famous tunnel effect. They will tunnel through, and they will reappear on the other side of the barrier, as a wave, and becoming another electron on the other side. So you could basically create now a source of randomness, of these electrons by just having them passing through an energy barrier.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot more that we'll kind of touch on just a little bit, but I wanted you to, if you could, kind of give us a sense of kind of timescale, because this is a technology that is replacing, a very fundamental part of what we do, kind of day to day in the entire technology ecosystem. If this isn't something that we kind of tackle, this idea of quantum random number generation and quantum computing in general becomes kind of picks up in the next decade. Traditional passwords, traditional ways that we encrypt things. How detrimental would it be if we don't change how we're doing things now? Like, are passwords going to become obsolete? Are our current encryption standards not going to be good enough in a couple of years?
Yes, it's exactly what happened today. Actually, there are cyber criminality, cyber security. It's a fairly complex. There's many ways that you can actually hack, a system. Starting actually by the human factor in itself. If you may have the most sophisticated, alarm system in your house, but if you forget when you leave to lock the door, it doesn't really help you much. So that's the same for the computer. I know people, they're still not using password, for example, believe it or not. So yes, so there are many different levels actually of attacks, or criminal attacks on the cybersecurity system. So the most dangerous one are the ones actually who attacks on the encryption, because that means that somebody is able, in fact, to knows actually your encryption, who has been able to decipher. Basically is able to spy and to get all the information that you communicate over internet without you never knowing about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the most dangerous ones.
Yeah, and of course, just kind of the fundamental underpinnings of encryption and that whole thing. I mean, so many times we see companies that can't really tackle putting a password on their public servers, and now they're going to be expected to make an even better encryption standard. Seems far-fetched, but hey, I guess that's where, and for anyone out there watching the video portion, you can see the I believe this is the QRNG. And and so talk about why a physical product, what advantages that have over, we've had IBM on the show with their quantum computers. We've had a number of, kind of different ways to do quantum computing, but you put it on a physical chip. So what does this chip do?
Okay, so what this chip, in fact, we're not, we are part of the quantum technologies, but we're not doing quantum, computing. We are part of what we call quantum communication. We're using, the principle of quantum physics, but for a different purpose. Quantum computer, as you mentioned, is the big threat moving forward, for communication, because the power of calculation of quantum computers is such that when they become mainstream, and we can always debate on when it's going to happen, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Some people say that in 4 or 5 years, the quantum computer will become mainstream. That means that cyber criminals will have actually in their hands, the tool who has the millions, and after the second or third generation, even trillion times the power of calculation of our best computers today. So they will be able to crack any key. Okay, so the only way to fight that is actually to offer a quantum, to a quantum threat is to offer a quantum solution, or quantum defense, and this is what we offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course you can see the technology here in the white paper, and you already have the version 2 of the technology. I'm sure that it's definitely improved. So when you are kind of bringing this out, I guess a big part of adopting a new technology isn't so much, I guess actually I do want to ask you one thing first, and I saw this as a press release that you had. There's a global chip shortage going on. Has that affected your ability to kind of make your chips and what you are doing? And this is just kind of a personal thing.
Yes, absolutely. We were planning to develop our first product, before actually we have been delayed because of the shortage of some silly electronic components. I mean, when we talk about something that, in normal times, we should get it for a few dollars, and they're very easily available. And there was a shortage of them, so we had delays, of a few months, but we finally solved the issue. We found a source of these electronic components, so now we are actually finalizing our product. I mean, and by the beginning of next year, there's something that we'll be able to. We will be working. We're working prototypes, so we'll be able to go and pass the certification process, etc., and we'll be able to already commercialize this product, necessarily. And we also will be able to develop our own applications, and this is what is exciting me, and probably what it's new, compared to when I appeared in your show the first time, is we are moving toward developing our own applications in, for example, in the blockchain space, on the VPN, it's and this is very exciting. Blockchain applications for us are low-hanging fruits, and we can make a big difference in the quality and the security of blockchain with this solution.
Yeah, and that's actually very curious, because we've covered blockchain quite a bit here on the show, and one of the parts of blockchain is that it's not infallible, and there's a whole thing about energy usage and all that whole thing, but it's more that you're committing something to a blockchain that is then distributed to many systems, many computers, and it's almost impossible to hack. But are you saying that traditional blockchain might actually be at risk because of future kind of the horsepower in computers that the power that computers will have? Why is there a need to increase security on a blockchain? And just
because I would say the strategy, the architecture of blockchain originally, I mean, the architecture of Bitcoin, it's called proof of work, and it is actually a very secure architecture. But one of the reasons why it's very secure is because it's very inefficient. That means that inefficiency is it's translated, for example, in a huge consumption of power. As you know, this is one of the very big limitations of blockchain technologies. I think that it's not a hype blockchain. It's something that is going to revolutionize the way we do business. So it's here to stay. But it's still a young platform technology that still, in fact, needs to mature and to improve and eliminate the big inefficiencies. So, for example, and this is what I think is fascinating, is that as soon, in fact, the inefficiency of the system, it's actually make it secure. Because if a cyber criminal would like to, be able to hack, a transaction in blockchain, would like to spend the same level of power than the ones that done the transaction. So power is becoming a limitation. You understand? Access to power becomes a big limitation. So, but how you blockchain cannot sustain itself in the future if they don't solve the issue of the power inefficiencies. So the idea behind is, for example, with Ethereum, it's a new architecture, that's coming. It's relying on it's on stacking instead of work, proof of stacking instead of proof of work. And so it reduced dramatically the consumption, of the transaction, however, at the expense of security. So we could do both. With our technology, we could actually, improve dramatically the consumption, diminish the consumption of power, and still getting extremely secure. And this is what I think it's very exciting for us.
Yeah, of course. And I know that I think a lot of people out there may be thinking, oh, blockchain, so you're going to make Bitcoin a little bit easier to transact and stuff like that. But no, we're just the other day, I don't know if you caught this one, where the United States Postal Service, Francis, they were running a very limited trial of actually putting I think it was the local elections on a blockchain. So, I mean, there's already... Yeah, there's already experiments going on that, nations may have their national elections using the blockchain to validate and to secure them.
Absolutely, because it's actually, a way to reinvent trust. blockchain, because you decentralize trust instead of having a central authority that own the transaction, you decentralize that. So that means that everything is blocked and chained together, becomes immutable, and nobody can change. In fact, you eliminate corruption. It's a way to eliminate corruption in business, or political transactions.
Yeah, and actually having a safe knowledge that something is not actually rigged. Which, when it comes to technology, let's face it, you have to trust. What is it? My math teacher used to say, "Are you going to use a calculator? Because then you have to trust the person who programmed the calculator that they're correct." And at this point, I mean, yeah, I trust calculators, but the point is, you can only trust programmers as much as the people themselves. But I think when it comes to blockchain and encryption, you're completely onto something, and it's great that your technology blends so well with it. So we've touched on that, and then of course the bigger part would be, again, cybersecurity. I mean, when it comes to there's so many ways that we've seen passwords being kind of hashed, and they've been hacked and cracked and every other adjective there. Microsoft famously said a couple of months ago that they were moving away from passwords, and the answer is then these random number generators that use two-factor authentication. So you use an app like Authy or some other app to give you a random code to then put into your browser. Is that a technology that you could see your technology kind of advancing?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, in security, basically high security basically relies on randomness, not complexity. I mean, there's been a lot of people who trying to make more and more complex and more difficult for hackers, in fact, to hack, but ultimately it's a race between, complexity and hackers. And usually they always end up to win,
right?
Okay, sooner or later. So the only way, in fact, to be completely secure is to rely on randomness, because randomness means that you cannot actually hack something because you don't understand the process, how it's been encrypted. Okay, it's impossible. So there is a motto for cybersecurity specialists. There is a very famous motto. It says that when it comes to security or cybersecurity, better be random than smart.
That's I'm sure worked out well for a lot of people, because you're right. Cybersecurity is always, you put up your wall and it's their job to figure out a way around their wall. And so often we see that the best way around the wall is literally, to your analogy before, a lot of them just leave the door open. They're not that it's very hard to stay secure on every front. So.
All right.
Now, some of the other sectors, so we have communication, we have cybersecurity, blockchain, but I'm seeing here on your website there are other markets that you have. Let's kind of touch on these lightly. Internet of Things. We're seeing more and more botnets. We're seeing communication among these things. They're inherently very open, because I guess end users find it difficult that security and ease of use are very antithetical. They're very against each other. You can either have an easy to use product or a secure product. The two are not really one and the same. Is there a space where you see Internet of Things, just every connected camera, every connected piece of clothing, every connected appliance uses your technology to be both easy to use and secure?
Absolutely. In fact, our second platform was a little bit less advanced. That the first one is a miniaturized chip that what we call a CMOS semiconductor. That would be, as tiny as the very tip of my finger, and that could be embedded in a cell phone or in any device, like even in medical device, like in implants. For example, all the new implants, implants in the medical device, they tend to be connected with the internet. So imagine if you have a pacemaker. Well, now the last generation, they're all connected to the internet, because you can monitor, all kinds of parameters. The doctor can at distance know what's going on with you. The problem is that there's always happened actually in the U.S. There is a patient who received a text saying that if you don't send the bitcoins to this address account, we turn off your pacemaker tomorrow. And
that's bad.
You don't want to receive that kind of message,
Mm-hmm.
So, but the question, yes, I think one of the big advantage of our technology, because it's simple, very robust, and very scalable, and ultimately we'd be able to make it embedded in almost anything that should be connected to the internet. Today,
Gotcha.
as you pointed out, 97% of what is connected to the internet is not secure. For example, I just bought a new coffee machine. Well, I guess what, it's connected to the internet, and, and every time you do that, you don't realize you create a door, or a window that, somebody can get into your system, through your coffee machine, after that, they get actually your bank account.
Yeah, it's really not that hard to do, because one of my favorite anecdotes that I tell on the show, way when connecting things to the internet was new and novel. There was a hotel that connected their wine storage facility, so a giant wine chiller, and they had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wine being stored there. Someone went in, it was not password protected, cranked the heat up to like 110 and ruined all of the wine. And it's like, you think, who would ever try to hack a wine chiller? But then at the same time, hey, sometimes you just want to mess stuff up. So it happens. It can happen to anyone.
Well, last year, remember the water plant in Florida?
Yes.
Well, they changed the parameters of filtration. They could have poisoned the whole city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it very, very severe effects, and it really makes a lot of sense. And that is, again, why I was talking about kind of ease of use, is because especially when it comes to city, government, local level, individual and consumer, I mean, if it's complicated, if it's expensive, they're not going to do it, which is unfortunate, because we're seeing more and more, especially institutions, being a target. How does your product over at Quantum eMotion, maybe benefit institutions on the city, state, national, military level? Are there kind of easy applications that you can slide in and kind of help these places?
I mean, by definition, our applications, as I said, we enhance actually already what exists. We don't necessarily, in fact, reinventing the wheel in security. We just make it better. So, this is I would say, the key message of our technology. But that's a big difference, because by making it better, like in the case of a blockchain, we can definitely be a game changer, and making the technology really actually very useful without any inefficiency.
Right. Yeah. And of course, I was also thinking about military, because they use, I think they're up to AES 256 or 512. I'm not sure what level of encryption they're up to. But yeah, I'm sure that they're always looking for the latest and greatest. Let's face it.
The military is definitely for us also a big target. The problem is it's very slow to get into the military. It's a long process.
Yeah, don't let them hear you say that. But I understand completely. And of course, I'm sure that we had NORAD on the program, and they always say that technology advancements are one of their leading efforts, because they don't want to be caught behind the curve when it comes to encryption and things like that. So you of course have that, and so with all that being said, it sounds like you have a very easy to use and enhancing encryption, which is the basis of so much. When do you, and I guess I should kind of say, I know that there's a chip shortage, but since you were last on the program, how's the intellectual property going? What's the current status? I mean, how have things evolved, especially the last 2 years?
Good question. We extended actually our intellectual property. As I said, we have 4 patents that are being granted now from the U.S.
Congratulations.
Patent Office, and we actually filed for new patents, and for new actually iterations of our technology. So this is a very important question for us. I think if we wanted to continue to, to create value for our shareholders, I mean, developing our IP and making it stronger, hardening the IP, it's actually a critical activity for us.
And of course, you guys are based out of Canada, but of course, kind of seeing outwards into the U.S. I mean, CES 2022 is coming up here soon. Has there been a lot of excitement kind of outside of Canada as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's an interesting, we in the U.S., since we've been also, I think, listed on the OTCBB. OTCB, yes, we have a lot of starting to have traction and interest, and Europe too is actually a very fertile ground for us.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of back and forth there. I know that we've been receiving a lot of something about like the tech startup in like with like the Dutch and the Netherlands especially. There's a huge startup space there, so I hope to see a lot more technology coming out of Europe. And of course, hey, Quantum Motion can roll right into that. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of let you have, kind of the last word here, Francis. You've been very knowledgeable, and, I think we've covered a lot of ground very quickly. Is there any topic, any space that we didn't touch on before we, kind of sign off?
No, I think we covered almost everything that's important,
Yeah, perfect.
Great
and just real quick, we're going to have a link to quantumemotion.com. I'm guessing that's the best place to go if people want to find out more information?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, and so everyone, we're going to have a link to that over at Computer America. This should be posted here in the next 30 minutes. Francis, just for your own heads up. Of course, everyone out there listening to the podcast, hey, it's already up. But Francis, I want to thank you so much for coming on to Computer America. It's been, once again, a great conversation, and I love talking about encryption, and especially, kind of improving basic technologies. I feel like I get the same feeling talking to you that I do when I talk to, the nice folks who kind of set like HDMI 2.1 standards. It sounds like it can be a little dry, but really this is the technology everyone will be using in the future. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Our pleasure. So everyone, once again, over at computeramerica.com, we'll have a link to this, and of course, in the show notes, everything you need to know. So with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Once again, computeramerica.com. Thank you again for tuning in, and if you want to find out more, we'll of course have a link in the show notes. So everyone, the music means that we're done out of time. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. And hey, looking forward to catching you here. Everyone, CES 2022, always want to plug that. January 5th through the 8th, we'll be having a lot of interviews. We're setting that up now. And until next time, everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.